One thing I noticed was that 2026 is starting to become the year of breakups. I feel like a lot of couples that I follow on social media or that some of my friends follow have ended their relationships, whether it ends in divorce or it's boyfriend or girlfriend that are just breaking up. But I feel like 2026 definitely has been an interesting year so far. And one thing I notice a lot when it comes to celebrity breakups in particular is how invested people become into these lives of these celebrities. First of all, of course, we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes with these couples. So I've never personally been putting these celebrity couples on a pedestal. I don't look up to these celebrity couples as like couple goals, and you shouldn't either. Like I said, we all go through things in our relationship, and again, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors with a lot of these couples. So I think it can be a dangerous thing to look up to these couples thinking that they're couple goals because they do X, Y, and Z. When in reality, a lot of people just post the highlights of their relationship for views. I mean, that's just a fact. So for example, there's two couples in particular that I've been kind of watching on and off. I actually don't follow any of these people on social media, but I just happen to see a lot of the content, when like Instagram or TikTok kind of recommends content for you. I've seen a lot of stories and I've seen a lot of posts and stories about these two particular couples. One is Desmond and Kristy. I actually used to follow them. I don't anymore. I don't follow either of them, but I used to when they first started coming on the scene, probably during the pandemic. If you're not familiar with Kristy and Desmond, they kind of blew up on social media, mostly TikTok, through Kristy's crazy antics. She would flip in heels. She would scare Desmond. They would just do a lot of pranking, just like a very over the top, performative almost type of content that she would post on the internet. And she kind of just blew up from there, and her family, things like that. She didn't post her kids' faces on the internet, but she would have them like in the background. You could see the back of their heads, but it was mostly the Desmond and Kristy show. So to my surprise, they ended up getting a divorce, which I did not see coming. They have been together. I think she was very open throughout the years about the fact that they've been together since, I believe, high school. So they were together for a very long time. I think they were married for maybe almost over 10 years at that point, I believe. And yeah, they are no longer together. And for a little bit, when they first broke up, I feel like the media has kind of simmered down now with the drama that they had during their divorce, which that in and of itself, I think, is really going to be challenging because the internet is forever. Even if you delete posts, people can still find stuff about you, about your family, things like that, especially if it's on a public profile. And so I'm curious to see what that'll look like for their kids as they get older, and they'll be able to be like, oh my gosh, dad did what, to mom, things like that. So anyway, I feel bad for them. But with that being said, the way that the breakup happened was very interesting in the fact that I appreciate the honesty on both sides. I think nowadays, especially in 2026, I think all we're looking for is vulnerability and honesty from these creators, these celebrities, and not putting up a facade and acting like everything's okay when it's not. So we do appreciate that honesty on both ends, but what occurred is just absolutely wild. And of course, there were several people that took Kristy's side when obviously we don't know the full picture, but it's still sad. So, for example, there were rumors that Desmond and Kristy were getting a divorce, but nothing had been officially announced on both of their profiles. So I didn't think it was true. And then, of course, people peeped that Kristy had changed her handle on her social media. Instead of being Kristy Scott, it was just Kristy.Sarah, which Sarah must be her middle name. And then Desmond came out with a statement that he had posted to his Instagram story. And that kind of solidified, oh, wow, so they are actually getting a divorce. And so I'll read the statement that he had posted on his account. I want to begin by apologizing to Kristy, our family, and everyone who has been impacted by the public attention surrounding this situation. I know this news has been disappointing for many, and I'm truly sorry for the hurt it has caused. Kristy is the mother of my children, and that will always come first. I remain fully committed to being an active, present, and loving parent to our boys, as I have always been. Kristy and I faced challenges and made sincere efforts to work through them. Toward the end of 2025, I wanted to separate, and I had conversations with Kristy regarding this. During this period, I made choices that I am not proud of. I took responsibility for those actions. I shared this with her directly and personally, and ultimately, we decided to divorce. I ask for privacy and compassion as we navigate this difficult chapter of our lives. Thank you to everyone who has supported us over the years. I'm grateful for that support and will continue sharing my love for cooking and the things that inspire me. I hope you all continue that journey with me. You can figure out by what he stated that he did in fact cheat on his spouse, which I do not condone. I mean, nobody should condone cheating. Cheating is horrible. I think if you really wanted to, step out of your relationship, why not just be a man and divorce? But he claims that he wanted to separate before and wasn't given the opportunity to. And so I would say just in general about the situation, obviously, like I said, we don't know how they are behind closed doors, how they are behind cameras. I don't condone the actions that Desmond decided to do to end up leading to divorce. And I feel bad that, he was wanting to separate because of some things that were going on. And it almost seems like, well, I guess my next best step to get out of the situation is just to cheat on my wife, which is horrible, obviously. And I hope that they both heal and get the help that they both need. I know that they're both still actively actually posting on social media, and Desmond is full on posting his cooking content, and people have commented and said that he looks more calm and himself. He's actually grown his hair out. His demeanor has definitely changed since the divorce. And then of course, Kristy kind of just posts whatever. I personally do not follow either of them on socials anymore. I did used to follow them both when they were married, but I don't know. The content just seems a bit performative to me on Kristy's end, and it just is a little awkward. And so one comment I definitely saw, and maybe people had said it underneath this video, because there was definitely people that were like coming for Desmond, like, how could you do this? You're a horrible human being, just going off on him. Proof that money doesn't buy happiness. He had everything and washed it away. Yeah, someone else said, it's sad that this is being played out publicly, which I highly agree. They have been together since they were young teens. And unfortunately, some people change and grow apart. I wish them the best, and I hope their children are loved through this whole process. I think what makes this whole process even more difficult is that they're in the public eye. Obviously, if they weren't famous, they would just up and get a divorce or whatever. But because they have millions of followers that followed them for their couple dynamics, and now that's completely changing. All these people are coming from the woodworks that have so many different opinions. So I'm sure that was definitely a very tough season for the both of them, and I hope that they get the closure that they need and are just being the best parents for their boys. But I never condone cheating, nor do I love when people divorce. But obviously divorce is necessary for certain situations. So I think that's sad. But it was just crazy seeing a lot of the posts that people were making of like, how could this be? Desmond, you suck. Like, just being wild on social media. And it's like, why are you so invested in their personal lives? But then again, they blasted their relationship on social media. So I get it. Then we also have another couple that everyone seems to be super obsessed with, which is Ayesha and Steph Curry. I don't follow them either, actually, on social media, which is kind of funny. But I always thought that they were just they seemed like a really nice, wholesome, married couple in the public eye. He obviously plays basketball. They have 4 beautiful kids. And there has been some posts over the years that have come out with Ayesha in particular when she's been on podcasts and has done interviews and things like that. And some of the things that she says have just been a little bit questionable for me. And that's kind of the whole premise, is just, again, you shouldn't be looking up to these couples as couple goals, because everybody goes through things. And, a lot of these couples are kind of living double lives outside of social media. And so, and I do believe, Ayesha and Steph have been together for a very long time. I think they originally met when they were like 14 or 15 years old. So they've been together for a very, very, very long time. They're in their late 30s now. So, they've evolved and changed and matured with each other over the years. But I do feel like not every opinion and thought that might come out of our mouths needs to be blasted on a podcast, because it just doesn't sit right with a lot of people, and it might not sound right either. So a couple years ago, I believe, Ayesha did an interview with Red Table Talk, And what she said was kind of odd to me. And I'll just go ahead and play the clip here.
Really bothers me and like honestly has given me a sense of a little bit of an insecurity is the fact that, yeah, like there are all these women like throwing themselves. But me, like the past 10 years, like I don't have any of that. Like I have zero, this sounds weird, but like male attention. Because I don't want it, but it'd be nice to know that like someone's looking. I have anxiety too, really, really bad, to the point where I actually take like medication. And I think like open communication and like putting your feelings out on the line, like that helps me a lot. It's like just letting somebody know like, nah, kind of having an anxiety attack right now. Stefan is like very nice by nature and he's very talkative. He gets it from his mama. And so like everything's always like very, very friendly. And sometimes to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm a grown woman, so I'll just insert myself and be like, hello, how are you doing?
Exactly. Right.
Like I'm okay with it now. And I've obviously, you know, like the devil is a liar and there's always like, the ladies will always be lurking, hoping for their moment and waiting. You need to be aware of that. But for me, I honestly hate it. I don't like when I feel like leveled off. So like we had the conversation about it and he like tries really, really hard to make sure that if we're going somewhere, I'm being introduced. I don't like to have to introduce myself. So we try and, I try and make that known. But there have been a couple of times where I've wanted to like punch somebody in the face for sure. I'll never forget, wanted to go buy bikes one day. And I'm sitting in the back nursing Riley. At the time, she's less than a year old. And this lady, this group of people come over and they're trying to ask Stefan for pictures and autographs. The woman opens the car door, sticks her body in the car, and she's like, oh, let me see. I'm like, no, like get out of the car. She goes, oh, honey, you know what you signed up for. And that's kind of stuck with me for a long time because I'm like, actually, no, I didn't.
So I know this interview is old. It's a couple years old. But what I find interesting, because this interview has stuck with so many people, and that's kind of like what they've kind of described Ayesha as basically kind of sounding insecure in herself and in her relationship as a wife and a mom. But at the same time, you know, most of us do not have high profile, famous husbands who make millions of dollars, who plays basketball. And so we don't know, obviously, what she's going through on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure that's really hard to see people just throwing themselves at your spouse all the time. But I do think that you should have enough confidence from the Lord that, you know, and you should have a lot of trust and confidence in the Lord that your husband isn't going to step out of the relationship and do anything crazy. And I think, like she said, open communication is going to be key for the relationship. But, you know, wanting male attention, being jealous that her husband gets a lot of female attention and that she doesn't, probably isn't something she should have mentioned publicly, because it just makes her sound a bit insecure. And I can kind of see maybe where she's coming from, because, you know, if your husband doesn't always tell you that you're beautiful, that you look sexy, or that you look great, you know, I don't think a lot of us women need our husbands to tell us that we look good every single day, because you should have enough confidence to be like, I know I look good. But obviously, when you have kids and your body changes, once in a while, it's nice when your spouse compliments you. And so maybe Stefan just doesn't do a good job of complimenting Ayesha enough. And so she gets a little bit in her head about like, oh my gosh, my husband doesn't tell me that I look good, but he's got all these women that are telling him he looks good. Where's the guys that are telling me that I look good? You know, and so that interview didn't really sit very well over the years. And then she was on Call Her Daddy, and there was a couple clips that had been broken up of her basically chatting about how her and Stefan met. And the beginning of the clip, she actually talked about how she didn't want to be, Alex had asked her if she wanted to, if she always knew that she wanted to be a wife and a mom. And she said no, she thought she was just going to be like a boss girl. And I think after she met Stefan, that's kind of when everything changed for her. And so one thing I do think is that the Lord always orders our steps. He has plans for our lives. So we could sit here and plan out our lives until we're 100 years old. But if God has different plans for us, then we just have to be okay with it. Again, I think the way that she said it probably didn't sound the best, and probably wasn't something that she should have said publicly, because I do kind of feel like it could sound a little bit weird for you to have 4 kids and your daughter gets on social media and sees you talking about how you didn't want to be a mom at first. Like, I don't know. I would feel some type of way about that. So I think I think Ayesha means well, and of course she went on to talk about how much she loves her husband and her kids. But I just think the way that she says things is just not the right place and not the right time, and it just doesn't sit right with a lot of people. So I say all that to say that a lot of these celebrities are going through things. There was actually a recent video of Ayesha and Steph on the red carpet, I believe at the Met Gala, and he like stepped on her dress and she gave him a look. But we all give our spouses looks when they're doing stuff crazy in public, right? They just happen to be this public figure. So of course people kind of took that and ran with it, and we're just saying how there would be no Ayesha without Steph and just talking crazy. But I say all that to say, don't believe that these celebrity couples have it all together. There's a lot of things that are going on with them behind closed doors that we don't know about. And I think the biggest thing is just making sure that y'all have God in the relationship, or praying, and that you're reading your Bible, studying your Bible together, and so that you can create a strong shield around your marriage and that it's nice and strong. So let me know your thoughts down below, and I would love to see your opinions and your thoughts down below, and I will see y'all in the next video. Have a blessed day.